Hey guys, this is bringing you another video. Welcome back to a viewer spectate. So today we have traveled the globe and we're on OCE, which is the Australian or Australasia kind of server, I guess. But I think it's mainly Australians and New Zealanders and maybe some Islanders that play on this server. Let me know. But today we are watching a Disabled One, pretty long-term member of our community, and playing VIEGAR. So one thing I've straight away noticed, Ignite on VIEGAR, which is quite spicy. So just to mention what rating everything, this is Iron. I think Iron 2 roughly, but I don't think he's played a lot of ranked games yet this year. And again, I love doing viewer spectates because obviously, you know, we're doing pretty good on the main account nowadays, Master on EU West. But obviously I like to be educational, and that's kind of, you know, historically my bread and butter. It is harder to be educational within Master because everyone is so good, you're having to really concentrate. And also Master games obviously being like the top 0.3 or whatever percent it is, if you're playing and you want to get better, it's actually hard to sometimes apply what's happening in a Master game to like more regular ranks. So doing a viewer spectate, some of you will be watching this around the Iron to Bronze level. Hopefully some of the direct things that I suggest you can use in your own games, and I think that's pretty cool. So, we are running Arcane Comet. Ooh, nice autos. Arcane Comet, obviously looking to try, I would imagine, to harass a Yone as a melee champion, but obviously you have to be very careful against something like a Yone because of his nature of if he gets on top of you and he has numerous tools to get on top of you, you're in a bit of trouble. And I will say the Ignite, I will say this is where I don't think if you were in a slightly higher rank, not running TP, I would say would be very risky, because obviously naturally what you're looking to do as a VIEGAR is high farm, poke where you can enemy champions, and scale. So just the way that good start so far for red team. But how VIEGAR passive works is you gain ability power when you last hit with your Q ability, and that counts on minions, and I believe if you last hit a champion with your Q you will get extra. But also hitting abilities on enemies will give you ability power as well, I believe. So yeah, VIEGAR's abilities grant him 1 stack when they strike enemy champions, takedowns, or champions, grant an additional 5. So yeah, basically if you last hit someone with your ultimate, you're getting 5 ability power for doing that, or if you last hit with your Q or whatever. So it's definitely what you're looking to try and do. So Yone exit stage left, what I would probably, you know, guess is a ward probably has come down. You know, if I was playing VIEGAR, I would assume that. Realistically, though, I would imagine a fair amount of turtling is going to happen this game for VIEGAR. Oh, cannon! Cannon mini miss. Obviously, I am notorious for missing cannons, but you do want to try and make sure you get them. But obviously, we have to adjust the, you know, commentary-wise. We are in Iron, probably low Bronze MMR, so we're not going to see perfection play here. And that's the thing, you don't need to be perfect. We don't see perfect play in Master EU West. So just know that, you know, I think it's very unhealthy sometimes what the current state of League is. You saw a reward. Again, definitely would look for potentially a cage to drop, because that kind of is the main, like, hey, you can't move here anymore. But another kill has happened, and that is the feat of strength kills, which is very nice. I would definitely be making your way back to lane. Oh! I wouldn't have done that. So just to explain, scuttle crabs, you know, that's a good thing for VIEGAR technically, but scuttle crabs are actually designed in the way that they actually give more to a jungler. So junglers actually get more gold and experience from killing scuttles than laners do. And I believe it's tied to the person that has smite. So, you know, you can't be going, oh, you know, it's fine. You know, it's a good thing for VIEGAR that, you know, you get that, but it did hurt your jungler a bit. So realistically, you know, in League, I wouldn't hurt your jungler, especially you never want to annoy your jungler, because you know, if you are in need of wanting help, the jungler is usually the person that's going to give it to you. And I would say especially in lower ranks, the whole like support roam meta and just the continuous state of roaming that support has become, I do find it gets more extreme the higher rating you go. So I don't know how much we're going to see roaming this game. And it's worth saying, you know, it's an Ashe support, which again isn't really a thing anymore, and a Seraphine support. So both of these supports are not roam priority supports anyway. So yeah, like, I don't think we're going to see support roam. So realistically, the help that you'll receive is from your jungler. Also, apologies, I'm being distracted. There's kids outside screaming, which is... It's school holidays nowadays, so, you know... All I'll say, obviously, with my baby on the way, I'm probably not going to be okay with them just screaming. You know, when they're, like, you know, nearing 10. Viego invading. Nice little roam over here. Does get the early flash. Ooh, Rammus is going crazy for it. Care for the melee. Okay, use the ignite. Land the Q. Okay, very nice. So ignite has been used. I think it was good, obviously, to come over. Yone obviously makes his way over as well. Nice Q. So you want to be landing them as many as possible. So you're already up to 31 stacks, which is very nice. 67 ability power. It's always worth knowing for those that are like, how does VIEGAR, like, not just go crazy every game? So VIEGAR has incredible scaling. Hilariously, his ratios aren't that good, but that's on purpose, by the way. Garen, by the way, proxy manages to kill the Aatrox, which is kind of funny. Aatrox only 17 farm. But yeah, the reason why they don't give VIEGAR the best ratios in the world is because of the amount of ability power he gets. You know, VIEGAR in a typical good game will get to 1,000 ability power. So if you gave him, you know, a 1.5 ratio or something, it would be insane. So they have to keep it within means, but that is where you have to be managing as many stacks as possible. You need to get as many stacks as possible to make this champion work. So as for item, tier 2 boot rush with tier, I'm kind of okay with that. So I guess the idea, hello Miss Maya, the tier 2 boot rush being against a Yone is quite smart. The only thing with it is, depending what build you're going, if you're going a Rod of Ages build, if you're going a Seraph's build, you are delaying, especially with the Rod of Ages, you're delaying it. The thing with the Rod of Ages, you don't really want to delay it at all. Interesting, Cage. Okay. I was like wondering what the hell. Teleports are still bugged within replays, so we don't get the luxury of seeing them. So Yone doing very much Yone things, just walks into lane and immediately just goes absolutely all in. This champion. But yeah, farm, you're staying within a Yone. You know, he's a little bit ahead, but that's fine. I definitely think so far, you know, trying to pick up some tips and advice, farming is definitely the #1 thing. I, again, would recommend teleport, because this is the type of thing, especially in a kind of, let's say, a spicy matchup where you're against a Yone, he's going to look for all-ins, he's going to try and kill you. You survive it, but now you're running at, like, a 3rd health, and it's going to limit your farming in the long run. So actually having that teleport that you can go back more often without sacrificing too much, I just think is what VIEGAR more wants. You know, and yes, you can argue the roam that you did, the ignite definitely gave you the kill, which is true, but teleport is that kind of valuable thing when you're playing this kind of high, you know, high scaling type of champion. So Mr. Garen is actually having an absolute blinder. He just double kills the enemy top and jungle. Again, I will say Aatrox at this rating bracket, I'm not convinced, again, that's the best champion. He's a very, basically, you know, hard champion to pull off. Very knowledge-based, very combo-based. And I'd say even a decent amount of high-rating players struggle really to make Aatrox work. So I'm massively surprised that the Aatrox is struggling. Cage. Okay, you managed just to run. That's the tier 2 boot advantage. But again, you know, that Cage is your defense against something like a Yone to kind of really stop him from getting on your face. Also, Maya has walked in the room, walked the whole way around and sat there. Usually she has something that she's not supposed to have when she does that, but I think she doesn't. Good girl. Right, so you do have Ignite back up. What I'd actually like to see is potentially a kill opportunity. If you're taking Ignite, it must be for a reason. It must be, you know, your playstyle must like wanting to go for kills. So I'd like to potentially see, and I know it's risky being a Yone, but I would like to see a more aggressive potential Cage, Ignite, Q, ult. If there's a W thrown in there, fantastic. But the thing with, and I would say with an Ignite, you realistically want to try to be using it as much as you can throughout the game. So that's, again, another thing that I don't see people doing. Ignite is rarer nowadays, but some people still use it. But what you'll notice with people that run Ignite nearly every game, and that is their playstyle, especially in higher ratings. Meanwhile, I think Yone went bot lane, and I don't mind you staying mid lane here at all, because, like, if nothing bad happens, well, one bad thing has happened, but you are gaining quite a lot of good stuff. Now, I will say, I think that's more on your team, which again isn't a you thing. I think that's more your team. They could have survived that. They got rid of the Yone, and then they continued, and it went bad in the continuation. So yeah, I don't actually think that's VIEGAR's fault at all there. Yeah, I was going to say, the people that you notice who run Ignite, that's their playstyle in high rating, you will notice quite often they Ignite as near enough as soon as it's available. They will go for a play every time and timing it with, right, Ignite's up, go for a play. Because in essence, with VIEGAR's Ignite maybe being up for the last, what, minute and a half, 2 minutes, in one more minute, you could have used Ignite, and then it would have been back up already. It's a 3-minute cooldown, right, without Spellbook. So the more you use it, the more damage it's giving you throughout the game. You know, it's a simple premise of, yes, you want to try and use it to get a kill, but one thing that people, I think, really underestimate in League of Legends is keeping people in your lane, something especially, you know, you could say like a Yone, keeping him at a lower half of his health bar, even if you're not going for a kill, it just reduces the risk. It just brings him back down. You can't all in me, you're a bit lower, and Ignite definitely helped with that. So Garen gets another kill on the Aatrox. Aatrox, I will say, I don't think he's used his flash yet, unless it's bugged in the replay. VIEGAR does get killed in bot lane, which is nice, and Rammus survives. Yone was hunting for the thingy, but if we do, I think we are supposed to see potentially pings that other people are doing in the game. You can see Ashe's ping Seraphine, so I don't know if the people in this game are pinging like Yone use flash. I'm not sure. Maybe we don't see that. Oh my god, Aatrox is dead again. I'm not entirely sure if we get that cage, nice, and then you just walk out and you basically trap him in. And that's how you immediately just reduce his DPS. When he eased back out of it, by the way, you just saw that it does actually stun him on the way out. So it's a very effective tool, very powerful tool to basically like, no Yone, bad. So again, Farm is doing okay. Get another cannon minion. I definitely would be wanting to prioritize the cannon minions. That, I believe, does secure feat of strength for VIEGAR's team. So well done to the Garen. Obviously, Garen, much better. Cage. There it is. Walk out. Don't be in melee range of him. But you are looking for the kill. I like it. And that should potentially be a kill. Lovely. There we go. So again, the cage is good. The Yone, you know, going for a play that wasn't really on, to be honest. I don't think you need a flash. I love it. Yes. So I really like the confidence. Nice nice cage. I like that. I think some players there would have just immediately flashed and be like, ah, I like that you held it. I think that's really good. I genuinely think that was good. Lovely Q. Get your extra AP stacks. I like that. So yeah, so far, pretty decent. I would say quite a reserved play style, but that obviously does suit VIEGAR because you're trying to hyperscale. So it's not a negative per se. The Ignite has helped you get 2 kills. So if I say, ooh, teleport would be better, I know, you know, VIEGAR, the player right now, maybe go, hey, it's helped me get 2 kills. And that is true. I would say it is true, but in the long run, the way that I would potentially think, like right now, you're doing okay in farm compared to the others in the game. However, if you had teleport and you could maintain higher health continuously, I think you would probably be, well, in how you're farming, there's occasional misses here and there, but with the rate you're farming, if you gave it a 60 to 70% conversion rate on each minion in the wave, I think you'd be sitting on probably 130, 140 farm, which is basically your 2 kills, maybe even more gold than your 2 kills that you've gained from Ignite, and you'd have teleport throughout the rest of the game, which enables what VIEGAR would love to do, by the way, when the game opens back up and people start grouping, and you know your bot lane comes mid and the kind of the whole transition away from lane phase happens. What you want to do in a lot of the time, or mid laners and top laners, is you go on the side lanes and you continuously farm, and what you're really doing is the farm, but it's actually solo XP. You're trying to maintain that, right, my bot lane's coming mid, right, I'm going to go bot lane because I want solo XP as a VIEGAR. That's the more important thing, and that's what I would say. Lane phase Ignite is always going to be good, you know, clearly, but it's more moving into that mid game to, you know, prioritize, maximize that experience gain. That's where you'll be lacking a little bit. Now, obviously, you know, having this Garen doing absolute boss work is always going to be a good thing. Goodbye, Yone. That's going to, you know, massively help. He does go down in the end, but I like you are pressuring. So that's good. You are going to kill the tower. Wonderful. And that's, again, realistically, all you can really do. I think one of the things that, you know, players need to know and accept is you only can do so much. The Garen is doing a great job, and you know, is there any world that you could have been over there and saved the Garen? No, not really. Like, no, it's not also your job to do that. So you did your job. You're chilling mid. You're farming. You're hopefully going to kill an Aatrox. He's dead. Wonderful. That's exactly what we're looking for. So, you know, yes, Garen probably be like, oh, damn, I died 2v1 and it was the Yone, the mid laner came. But the moment he goes, oh, but my nice cage, ooh, he actually went over it. He doesn't have enough damage to kill you right now, which is good. But yeah, that Garen will have that kind of emotion going, oh, I died, will now go, oh, but my VIEGAR killed the mid tower and he killed the Aatrox. Fair enough. And that's the thing, as long as, you know, deaths are going to happen, teammates are going to die, but if you try to achieve something positive, a lot of the time people won't be that disappointed. And even, like, again, it depends what you play. It's very different if you're playing something that's supposed to stomp early and you're not getting involved than something like a VIEGAR, who is a hyper-scaling hyper-carry. And if you, for example, if right now you took TP, you farmed like an absolute Super Saiyan, and you were sitting on 150 farm, and that Garen was like, I do wish VIEGAR was getting maybe a bit more involved, and he goes, but VIEGAR's on 150 farm. Happy days. Oh, is this tilt? That's... That was kind of nuts. So VIEGAR, I think, just lost his mind a bit. He did use Flash, I believe, to try and track down and get the kill. But that was a, you know, both sums from VIEGAR used to survive and get the kill as well, but happy days. I'm not really sure what that was about, and that, by the way, was full value of a kill because VIEGAR killed the Garen, so full value. This is going pretty well. So Luden's Rush. So this is interesting. So there is a typical rule when it comes to AP champions. You don't want to do double mana. So when I say that, Luden's is a double mana, is a mana item. So you have the Lost Chapter component part of it. You're then buying another Lost Chapter that, if I had to guess, is going to be for an Archangel. So there is a typical rule, and you know there are some exceptions, but not many. But there's a typical, you don't really want a double mana item because having basically so much mana is redundant. Like right now, you've got 2,400 mana. You're never going to go ooh, because you're getting into the point of the game that blue buff will be starting to get shared, and eventually, like, everyone will have a blue buff, you know, when more progress in the game happens as well. So it's very unlikely that you're going to go oom. So having a double, basically two items that both have Lost Chapter, usually not needed. So that's one thing I would say is potential, like, lost strength, if anything. So Yone is really trying to just go roam. Oh, hello. That's a VIEGAR. And you can understand why. The game is not going too well. It's a Yone. You know, he is a very strong champion that wants to kind of pick on the squishy champions. And hilariously, this Yone will now, in my mind, not be looking at VIEGAR as a completely free kill. He's 402 with slightly bit more farm, doing well for solo XP. He's the same level as the Garen, who's 9 and 4. Boom. Very nice. You get another kill. I like the fact, by the way, that you didn't feel the need to ultimate. Again, your ultimate is very precious. It has so much damage potential on it. You don't have to use it if it's not warranted, because you now still have it available. You're still that, you know, that threat of VIEGAR didn't use ultimate. Like, you're still that absolute, I can kill you. So I like holding it. I like actually being reserved in that way. Garen is just being an absolute menace to the enemy team. Oh, friend. Here we go. Again, I would have potentially gone forward on this. Look for the ulti. Garen, careful, justice. And then ulti. Ooh, doesn't get the kill. Be careful for the all-in. Nice cage. You're looking for the Aatrox. You get the Aatrox. So again, last hit, but that will get you killed. So again, I think that was obviously a little bit crazy. I think, you know, VIEGAR himself would know that. And there is the Seraph. So yeah, double mana item. So especially with something like Seraphs, you're gaining more mana from the item than anything else, really. So I would say potentially you don't need both of these. And if you like the idea of having Luden's, which obviously gives burst, I don't know, maybe you could go Seraph's Rush, because then you're actually getting the defense with the shield. And then you could go like a Shadow Flame or something that you're getting burst from that. But you're not getting the mana, so you're actually getting more damage than you would with the Luden's. That's something that I would just straight away suggest. Now, don't get me wrong, like I've played a lot of VIEGAR in my time. but I'm not completely up to date with modern VIEGAR. But that's just typically what I would suggest as a not trying to, like, you know, having both. Are they both good items? Yes, in their own rights, but together I think you could be stronger with two different items. Like, I think Seraphs is a must on VIEGAR personally, so you're not going to get rid of Seraphs, but I think Ludens could be replaced with something not mana orientated. So Rammus, by the way, did go 2v1, but he did actually get a kill. Tier 2 tower is being killed. And this is where I say, like, we're not in the highest rating. So the enemy bot lane is still laning bot lane 20 minutes into the game. It's a bit weird. So we're at the point of the game that people are supposed to transition. Quite a while ago, they should have transitioned into more of a, think of it as not lane phase, but a global map. So the fact that these two are still bot is a bit peculiar. And now the virus is dead. Rift Herald summon. Oh, Vigo in a bit of a precarious situation. Just walk out. Again, you don't want to be standing still. Oh, flash by the Viego. Cage does get killed, unfortunately. But Garen does get the return kill. Hello, Miss Maya. Obviously, one thing I will say, again, looking at Vigo specifically, Cage, obviously, yes, it's a very powerful ability. It is, obviously, goes without saying, a stun. So if you actually aim it to land on the target straight away, you'll be stunning them instantly. And there have been some instances that you could have potentially looked to reduce the damage incoming. Just looking, instead of like caging yourself is the ultimate safety against a melee champion, because you can run through the wall and you can't follow me. But if you just stun them instantly, it will potentially save you more damage than you sometimes are taking right now. So that's one thing I would say. Obviously, it is harder to do that in the moment of like a crazy, I've got a Yodo on my face. It is hard to do it in the situation, in the time, but it is something that I would definitely look to consider, more aiming directly to land the cage. So again, Varus running to bot lane again. So yeah, the enemy, I will say, it's a very peculiar build. He's got Nashers and then looks to be buying a Blade the Ruin King. So it's like an on-hit build, but combining AP and AD. Riot kind of killed hybrid builds a couple years ago, so hybrid stuff isn't massively a thing anymore. Ram is going absolutely nuts. Good Cage. So that was an instant stun. Helps get the kill straight away with the Rammus. Whoa, Yone's going in by himself. That's kind of nuts. Ignite and a kill. Wonderful. And Rammus survives. 11 health. Wonderful. So yeah, that Yone was being a bit crazy. He does go Wit's End. Not terrible, by the way. Wit's End and Mercs. Having a Rammus and a VIEGAR, one, that's a decent amount of CC, and two, the damage that Rammus is outputting in returning it with W and Thornmail is magic damage. So magic resist is actually the counter to that. That's where, like, you know, if you've ever watched those videos of AD carries literally auto-attacking in a taunt of Rammus and they just die in 3 auto-attacks, they need to buy magic resist. That's what actually would save them. So far, so good. I think one thing as well, we've obviously moved more into a mid-game, and this is what I was speaking about earlier. One thing that is noticeable is the farm drop-off has been quite hard. So you're at 129 farm. You were at, 110 farm 5 minutes ago. So I think definitely more focus on farming would be good. But that's where, is what I said earlier. This Viego's crazy. Not having that teleport is hurting in the fact that you can tell you're feeling the need to be grouped because you want to be there, you want to be involved. If I'm top lane farming, my team get caught, boom, it's over. And that's what teleport can give you, is I'm going to be top lane, power farming as a VIEGAR. You could be at 200 farm right now, and then if there's any trouble, I'm teleporting to go help my team. So, it's just worth considering, but, it goes without saying, Ignite has done a good job this game. I think it's minimum gotten you 3 kills. And if you worked off, let's say, 3 kills is 300 gold each. That's like, just pretend they were all worth full value. That's 900 gold. But then if you just do basic math, so if you said the average minion right now, if you combine range minion, cannon minions, different time of the game, if I get my calculator, let's say 18 gold, if you just wanted to properly average it, 18 gold, I think you could be at 200 farm right now, so that's 18 times 70. that would be 1260 gold, where Ignite has given you 900 gold worth of kills from stuff. 900 gold from kills. So it's just worth, considering you technically would get more from the farm, and you'd be getting more XP. Nice kill. Yone coming in. Hello, hello. Enemy team nearly walked into the cage there, but they did avoid it, which is good. But like this, I like the kill, but Caitlyn being bot lane, realistically, that should be a VIEGAR. Garen's doing a good job. He's breaking open the base. Varus has flown too close to the sun, my friend. He doesn't die. Damn. But overall, not too bad. Build-wise, is that going to be a Storm Surge, potentially? I think that's going to be a Storm Surge. Oh, does go down, God. Collective VIEGAR. It does so much damage. I do need to sneeze if that's one of my speech. Oh, bless me. Yeah, Storm Surge, not bad. And as I said, I genuinely think all I would do massively with build difference here, nice double cage, double hit into them, big damage. That's absolutely wonderful. So yeah, the play I'd say is actually not bad. The actual mechanics, decision making of why am I doing this, I'm moving over here, I'd say that's actually all been pretty good. I'd say moving forward, of what I'd like Disable One to really try and work on, prioritize farm, and there are champions for it. If you were playing Fizz right now, and you were 928 on Fizz with 140 farm in 26 minutes, I wouldn't care about the farm at all, by the way. But when you're playing VIEGAR, that's your bread and butter. Right now, you've got 286 stacks, 664 AP. One thing to consider in my calculation of it, or you could have 70 extra farm of when I did it. Well, that's by minimum, that's 70 more stacks, that's 70 more ability power. It adds up. So yeah, I would say that. So definitely a little bit more farm orientation as something like a VIEGAR. Secondly, potentially with that, consider teleport, but I know Ignite may be better for lower rating, and that's something that I will definitely bow down to and say in lower rating Ignite will be more valuable. It's very weird to me that Garen is TP. I will say Garen in high rating takes Ignite, Garen here is taking TP. So I would say that's something that I would consider, but it's not a 100% necessity. Arrow coming down does actually hit the Varus. Then, side laning for absolute XP. You're not behind in XP by any means. You're level 16. Not sure what he was doing. You're level 16, you're the second highest level in the game. So it's not been a negative this game, but this has gone quite well. You've had a Garen with high pressure. It kind of freed you up in mid lane to be quite alone in solo XP. So in a typical game, oh, big CC by Seraphine. In a typical game when you're not going to have a Garen that just takes over, definitely more solo orientation moving to your bot side. But, it's worth saying your bot side didn't come to mid. Their bot lane stayed bot lane. So it was a bit weird. So again, if your bot lane's not moving, then you don't move. That's fine. And then also build. So again, I don't love the double mana. I don't love the Seraphs with the Ludens. If I actually, while we're kind of waiting for respawn, let's have a little look at statistics. Let's look at VIEGAR. So VIEGAR's typical build right now. So it's more of a Rod of Ages into Seraphs, into Deathcap, into Shadowflame. Now, I potentially, I'm quite vocal that I don't like Rod of Ages. So potentially, I don't know if influence has happened and I'm not buying Rod of Ages because Huz doesn't like it. I don't like it on the primary, champs that were building it. That didn't make sense to me. Every mage, Ari was suddenly buying Rod of Ages. That made no sense. VIEGAR, it's fine to buy Rod of Ages. And you might be like, isn't Rod of Ages a mana item as well? It is, but it's not a primary, crazy mana item. It's a scaling AP health item that scales with your champion, and that's what ultimately VIEGAR wants to do. So you could consider the Rod of Ages into Seraphs, but if you don't like Rod, and people may not like Rod for their own reasons, generally I would say Seraphs into Shadowflame, into if you like Storm Surge. You could even just go Seraphs into Shadowflame into Deathcap if you have enough gold. And I would say this game, you've probably had enough gold to warrant an earlier Deathcap. You're not even building it now. You're building something else, I presume. Deathcap is 100%, I would say, a needed item on VIEGAR the basic principle of you have 810 ability power right now. If you buy a death cap with obviously death cap having a 30%, your AP goes up 30% from buying the item. This is where you'll be knocking on the door of 1,000 ability power. That's where the masses of AP come through from a single item. So that is definitely something I would look to prioritize a little bit more as a VIEGAR. But overall, again, the game has slowed down a little bit. It's not a complete negative. You're doing very well. The enemy team doesn't really have anything to fall back on. And again, you scale great. You've got, again, you're playing VIEGAR. That's one of the nice things about playing a hyper carry, is you're the one that's just chill about not ending the game yet, because you're like, I'm playing VIEGAR. I like that. Again, one thing I would say I'm very happy with Disabled One's play is... Ooh, it does go down there, but that was a good Seraphine ult. What I like, though, is the use of ultimate and also the not use, and that's sometimes actually a very important thing. And it happens with summoner spells, it happens with abilities like ultimates. You don't always have to throw your ultimate if it's not needed. You should use it when it is, obviously, and I'd say again, if it's borderline, use it. But like that kill on Aatrox, you knew you had it, and that was really good confidence to see. So yeah, I'm actually, like, I think Disabled One is definitely a little bit in not... Jesus. I don't think he's probably in his absolute rank right now. I definitely think a bit higher than the game quality itself. With a couple changes here and there, I definitely think you could be an absolute power farming house. Still getting kills, by the way, on VIEGAR, because I think the way that you're playing is good. A little bit of roams, like nothing major, and I like that. You moved when it made sense, but you weren't just doing it willy-nilly, because that's not what a VIEGAR wants to do. So overall, I think this has actually been pretty good. You do... So wait, you sold? I don't know what just happened. Was Shadow Flame now bought? Oh, I guess Shadow Flame maybe was now bought? Am I crazy? Hang on. Did those components get turned... Oh, right, yeah. Those components got turned into a Shadow Flame. Okay, there we go. Anyway, that's going to be it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you can pick up a few bits of advice here and there. Again, if you guys want a commentary yourself, because I do sometimes get, like, how'd you get one? It's typically 10 gifted subs on Twitch. You know, I don't have to be live when you send them. But obviously you will have to somehow communicate. But if you send them and then leave a comment on a video saying, hey, I did 10 gifted subs by this username, here's my username on League of Legends, like your summoner name and server, then we can get it obviously organized and sorted. So yeah, hopefully that helps. Overall, pretty good. If you guys enjoyed, do throw a like, throw a comment, throw a subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.
Call down the reckoning to bring back hope and peace. Restore our glory to live forever. Bring down the dark regime. I know how to unleash eternal power.